Just a heads up before we get started. Audacity did not record my microphone for some reason, so the audio is going to come from my webcam audio, so the audio quality is not going to be as good as usual. So, yeah. Hello, all and everyone who might be listening. It is your boy, Tom Boom. And today I'm going to be doing another episode of the Boomcast. Now, I know I have like 3-ish new subscribers, I think. So for the 3 subscribers who don't really know what this is, basically, every Saturday, or at least I promised every Saturday, I do a podcast where I basically rant about stuff and make jokes or, whatnot. Just as a way to chill back and relax and just, I don't know, spout my opinions on stuff and try to make jokes and fail at it. But today's going to be a bit of a special episode because we're going to be talking about a movie that probably everyone and their grandmother has seen. It's a little old movie called Endgame, or to be more specific, Avengers Endgame. I thought this was a pretty good movie. As someone who's been a fan of the MCU for a while now, I've been seeing these movies since I was a kid. I kind of dropped out, lost interest maybe, I don't know, probably halfway through high school. I kind of stopped paying attention to the movies that were coming out. I never saw Doctor Strange or Black Panther or I don't know, like the second Guardians of the Galaxies, and I didn't even watch Thor Ragnarok and I only saw it because a friend of mine said that you need to see Thor Ragnarok. Something happens in that movie that ties in with Endgame, and I'm glad I did because there was something that happened in that movie that wouldn't really make sense. There was something that happened in Infinity War at the beginning that wouldn't make sense if you didn't see the end of Ragnarok. Basically, we're not going to talk about Infinity War. We're here to talk about Endgame. If I go on a rant about Infinity, we're going to be here forever. I thought this was a really good movie. I personally liked it as someone who's been a long time fan. Then again, a lot of people, I've been watching listening to what some other people have thought about the movie, and I'll be honest, this is like the second time I'm recording this because I was really eager to record this podcast and say, hey, and have spread all these thoughts, but they were kind of inconsistent and I wasn't really making a whole lot of sense, if that makes sense. I was sort of just spouting opinions left and right without really thinking about it. Also, there was just stuff I didn't really know what I was talking about. Like, for example, I didn't know what Nebula's name was. I was just, like, the first time I recorded this, I just called her Blue Chick. Yeah, or like Blue Chick or something like that. So I want to correct those mistakes, and so this is like the second time I'm recording it. But I think this introduction is going on long enough, so let's get started. So basically, Endgame. I thought this was a really good movie. The movie, and I should probably warn you, there is going to be spoilers in this podcast as I'm talking about the movie. I've seen people try to do movies or talk about movies like spoiler free. I honestly don't know how you can do that because it's hard to go into details about a movie if you don't talk about what actually happened in it. So anyways, on with the movie. It was good. It starts off a little slow because the first hour or so is a little bit depressing because there's like this point in time where you see like it like skips ahead. Like, well, first of all, before the time skip, basically there's a plan the Avengers have and to try and beat Thanos. They find out what planet he's in. They ambush him. They take his gauntlet, but there's nothing in the gauntlet. He destroyed all the stones. Thanos, I don't know. He seemed different. I can't really put my finger on why he was different. I think he was just more. He wasn't as driven as he was in Infinity War. Probably because he already got what his goal was. He wiped out half of all life on Earth, and he's like, well, whatever. You want to kill me? I don't give a fuck. He and I kind of get why, but it just didn't feel the same. Like it wasn't the Thanos I saw when I watched Infinity War. But yeah, and there's also an interesting thing that happens in that moment where like Thor decapitates Thanos, and Thor. I think somebody says, "Well, why'd you do that, Thor?" And Thor was like, "I aimed for the head," like, and that was a throwback to uh, Infinity War. That one scene in Infinity War. But yeah, after that, there's like a 5 year time skip to a jump ahead in time, 5 years into the future, and this part of the movie, it's kind of depressing, but in a way, it's also important to like get to know some of the characters and see how they've been throughout the movie. So like basically, you basically see the effects of what happened to the people of Earth and how it's affected the Avengers, how Thanos' snap has affected the Avengers and the pain that everyone's going through. And it gets kind of depressing. It gets better, later on. It starts to kick it up a notch when Ant-Man comes into play, and he introduces the Avengers plan to, hey, if we shrink real small, we can travel to different parts of time, or we can time travel. And the time traveling thing is interesting. I think the one thing I've heard people criticize about the time traveling aspect of it is that it's mostly meant for fan service. And yeah, it's kind of true, because basically what happens is that the Avengers split up into three different teams, and each team goes into a different time part of Marvel history to get the Infinity Stones. I think Captain America's team, they go to back to the events of the first Avengers film. The second team, which is Thor and Rocket Raccoon, they go back to uh, the events of the second Thor movie, Thor: The Dark World, and then the third team is oh yeah, Warhammer and Nebula. They go back to the events of the first Avenger, not the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie to get the stone in there. I don't know the names of all the stones. Forgive me. I know the names of like a couple of them. The Infinity Stones were always like tricky to me. I could never like uh, figure out what all the names were. I just know of the Reality Stone, the Soul Stone, and like the freaking blue cube that Loki wanted. Like that's pretty much it. Uh, but yeah, all goes well. There is some fan service here, and I do like some of the fan service. There was a part like for the where uh, Captain America had gotten the blue Infinity Stone. I don't know what the name of it is. He and But the problem is that Hydra agents have it, and it's funny. He basically talks them into giving him the stone by whispering in their ear, "Hail Hydra!" And and the next thing you know, the next scene, Captain America is walking out of the elevator with the stone in hand, and I thought it was interesting. The Infinity. Uh, there was also some more like touching moments in this movie when they were going through flashbacks. Some of the Avengers were meeting people, personal people in their lives. Like when Thor and Rocket Raccoon went back, Thor got to meet with his mother before I think she was assassinated. I don't know. It's been a really long time since I've seen Thor: The Dark World. I honestly wasn't a big fan of the first two Thor movies. The first two, in my opinion, were both kind of bland and forgettable. They weren't really that great. Ragnarok was great. I thought that was great, but not I wasn't a fan of of the first two movies. Uh, and then there's a point where Captain America and Iron Man, and there's another emotional moment where Captain America and Iron Man have to go to a different timeline because there was a screw up when and during the Avengers timeline, like Hulk knocked future Iron Man over with and the Infinity Stone, and that like sort of fled to the side, and Loki picked it up and ran off with it. Uh, and so what happens is they go back in time to an earlier time to where they can get that same Infinity Stone. Wait a minute, the blue stone. Oh gosh, I'm an idiot. The blue stone is the stone that Iron Man was carrying, wasn't it? If I remember correctly, the Infinity Stone Captain America have that was a completely different one, I think, if I remember that correctly. Uh, and so what back to the top what I was my point, there's another touching moment where they go back as far as the 1970s to get another Infinity Stone, and Iron Man meets his dad in the past, and he gets to talk with his dad a little bit. That was kind of a touching moment. I liked that. uh it was cool to get to see Iron Man get to be with his dad. If you've seen the relationship with his dad, he never really got to know him because both his parents were assassinated at I believe back when he was still just a child, so he never really got to know them. It was great seeing that, to see him getting to interact with his father. Uh, there's not really much else to say about the flashbacks. I think there were some funny moments like during the flashback segments of Endgame, but like it was mostly just for fan service for the most part. Later on in the movie is when the big climax final battle happens. Basically, and during the Guardians of the Galaxy route, like Warhammer's team, Nebula. When they go back to that time period, um, the Nebula of the past timeline gets connected with future Nebula's frequencies, and because of that, Thanos finds out everything that happens in the future. And so then what happens is when Nebula and Warhammer try going back to their own timeline, Nebula can't do it because I guess there's a connection between future and past Nebula that's preventing future Nebula from going back to her timeline, and so future Nebula is kidnapped. They and what happens is that uh, past Nebula disguises as future Nebula. She steals her time suit. She goes back to the future, and basically, uh, uh, Iron Man builds his own Infinity Gauntlet. Hulk uses it to bring back everyone, and while all that's going on, past Nebula sneaks uses like the time machine thing to bring past Thanos back to the future present. He obliterates the Avengers Tower, or like the Avengers headquarters, and basically there's like this is when things really start to kick off, where it really gets crazy. This is the ending. This is, in my opinion, the best part in the movie. Yeah, this is where a massive fight breaks down with Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. They're all fighting against the Thanos. It's really epic and climactic. There's some really crazy shit that happens. Um, there's like, I mean, for example, there was a part where Captain America is able to wield Thor's hammer and use it against Thanos. that was absolutely insane to me, and a lot of other people thought it was insane. You know, I was in the movie theater, and you know, people were screaming, "What?" You know, and I thought that was a cool moment from Endgame. Like he's fighting, like Captain America is fighting Thanos with Thor's hammer. He's worthy to hold Thor's hammer. That was a crazy moment in that movie, and also seeing Iron Man and Thor all try to gain up on him. And then there's a even like it gets more crazy where Thanos summons an entire army to fight against the Avengers, and then when all hope seems lost, uh, all of the fallen heroes that were victims of Thanos' snap come back in the last second. Doctor Strange opens up a crap ton of portals for all these different Marvel heroes, like hundreds and hundreds of different Marvel heroes coming together to team up to fight Thanos. And Thanos and his army. I thought this was a really epic moment, and you see all of the people, all of the Avengers who have fallen and are coming back to help fight against Thanos in this one climactic, extremely climactic battle. It was insane. I loved it. There was this massive war fight. You see all of these Avengers fighting and helping each other. And amongst the midst of it, you have other, you know, emotional moments where Peter Parker and Iron Man meet up for the first time since Peter Parker disappeared, and he hugs him because he misses him from, you know, what happened with, you know, in Infinity War. Well, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. Uh, there's also a moment that catches you off guard too. With there's a part where Star Lord sees Gamora, and I don't think I've mentioned this yet. Basically, past Gamora comes along with past Thanos to the future to at first it was like to help fight against uh help fight with Thanos, but like the Gamora we know, the past Gamora ends up having a change of heart and decides to fight against Thanos, and along with the help of the future Nebula. Well, anyways, there's a point where Star Lord sees Gamora, and he's heartstruck. He's missed her ever since she was killed, and you know he tries to get all cuddly and girl friendly with her, and she basically just fucking punches him in the face and kicks him in the balls because and he's because the past Gamora does not know who, you know, Star Lord is. This is a Gamora from a timeline where she hasn't met him yet, uh, or met Star Lord yet. Uh, you know, and the ending was just really sweet, you know. And the Avengers assemble when this entire army of people from, you know, the Wakanda guys to some space guys to all to like Doctor Strange with his own guys, just this massive army of heroes, and Captain America stands in front of him saying, "Avengers assemble," and you know, this whole massive thing goes on. You see Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, all of these great heroes fighting to save um, the universe. It's a really fantastic movie, and it ends with a great climax where fucking Thanos and Iron Man are fighting for the Infinity Gauntlet to try and for their own dream to come true. Well, not dream to come true. Like, you know, Thanos and Iron Man are both fighting, are struggling to get the Infinity Gauntlet. Well, not the Infinity, like Iron Man's Infinity Gauntlet, and you know, and I should mention this. Thanos has a different plan now than he originally did. Like, he sees the future, and he says, and he realizes his plan does not really work well. And so now he has a new plan where he basically plans to just kill everyone and then make a new universe where people won't focus on what happened in the past. And it was and now it's like more of a sinister plan, because now it's like, oh shit, if the Avengers fail, then that's it. Iron Man and Thanos are both struggling to fight the Infinity Gauntlet, to get the Infinity Gauntlet. Captain Marvel joins in to help fight against Captain Marvel. I should probably mention this. I don't know why Captain Marvel was in this movie. In my opinion, she was not really that important of a person to be in this movie. It really felt as if this character was forced, in the movie. She was only in it for like, I don't know, 15 minutes. And here's how long the period was. And here, when she showed up for the final battle near the end of the movie, there was a long period where you just did not see Captain Marvel. The last time you saw her was like, I think at the start of the 5-year time skip where she's talking with Black Widow about everything that's happened. Um, and and then like several hours later she comes up out of the final battle. It's like she knows nobody cares about her, but like but when the ending comes, like, I'm gonna join it for this. I need to have some of the spotlight. Gosh darn it, I was not a big fan of the Captain Marvel movie. I thought it was kind of garbage. Politics aside, I just thought it was just boring. I watched like half the movie and got bored and left. It was the characters were bland. The acting was kind of bland. The story wasn't really all that interesting, and I kind of just stopped watching it like halfway through. Uh, and but anyways, back to Endgame. The climax was really good. Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, they're all trying to their damned hardest to try to prevent Thanos from making the snap. Captain Marvel, she grabs his hand just before he makes the snap. She struggles to pull it off, and then Thanos, he takes out the purple Infinity Stone, and he fucking blasts her away with it. I love this movie, man. This was a really good, especially like the ending, like the climax where Iron Man, he comes in and he struggles to like get the Infinity Stone gauntlet off Thanos, and and then there's the moment where you think Thanos won, where he has his hand up and he's like, "I am the inevitable," and then he snaps, and then nothing happens. And he's confused, and he looks back at the back of his hand, and he realizes he doesn't have the Infinity Gauntlet anymore, or like Iron Man's, gauntlet. And then Iron Man lifts up his hand, revealing that he has all of the Infinity Stones now on his glove. And Tony Stark is like, "I am Iron Man." He snaps his fingers, and like what happened with Infinity War, the same thing happens, but now it's with the other side. Now, everyone, all of Thanos' army, including Thanos himself, all disappear. Just like that. Just like how Thanos did with the Avengers, Iron Man just did that with Thanos and all his army. And, oh, that was sweet. I love this movie. The climax of the movie was really good. And I'm going to be honest. I'm a big Marvel fan. So there is some fan service here meant for people like me, and it's not really for everyone, especially if you're a DC fan. Yeah, but in all seriousness, though, if you don't catch up with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you really wouldn't. This doesn't feel like it has a heavy weight on you for as a audience member, because it has all of this stuff that accumulates from like past movies. And then it gets really serious though, because like Iron Man ends up dying because the power of the Infinity Stones were too much for him. And there's a slow moment where he has a funeral. Captain America after he returns the stones, decides to go back to the past and live with the woman who was his girlfriend. I think 1940s, I believe, is the decade Captain America is from. And overall, I think it was a good movie. It did have its flaws. It was a little bit of a fan service, and that was a bit. I don't know. It doesn't really bring in new people, but then again, this is not really meant for new people. It's meant for like people who've kept up with the MCU, and for fans wanting to finish it off with a great big bang or something. I don't know, like have an excellent finish. And to be honest, I do think the MCU, the Endgame would have made a great conclusion to Phase 3. I don't believe the MCU is ending anytime soon. That they are going to have more, Marvel movies. I believe Spider-Man: Homecoming, not Homecoming, Far From Home is supposed to be it's supposed to be the start of Phase 4. I think if what I've heard is correct. But yeah, this has been going on for almost half an hour. I think this is pretty good. Hopefully this is better than I did last time. I'll go back to the footage and see how it sounds. But yeah, thanks so much for listening, everyone. This was a special episode of the Boomcast. Hopefully I stick on a good schedule and keep doing this every Saturday. It's not even, it's like 2 in the morning. It's now Sunday, so it's not going to be up on Saturday, but I digress. Hope you all enjoyed listening to my ramblings, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next video of whatever I make. Bye-bye.